So maybe you've already seen Alex's review of the Kia Sorento Hybrid and you came away impressed with what that vehicle had to offer, but the fact that it didn't offer all-wheel drive in any form or it was a little slow kept you waiting to hear more about this model here, the plug-in hybrid. Well, I've had my chance to give it a review and I have to say it's a very compelling package, especially for its target market. Design-wise, the plug-in hybrid model doesn't change at all over the standard hybrid model that Alex reviewed, other than the fact that all Sorentos now get Kia's new corporate logo, and the hybrid's optional 20-inch wheels are standard on both trim levels of the plug-in hybrid model. Standard safety features on the plug-in hybrid Sorento include things like lane keep assist with lane following assist, adaptive cruise control, rear cross traffic alert, front and rear parking sensors, rear occupancy alert, blind spot monitors, as well as navigation-based smart cruise control, among other things. Building on the formula of the standard hybrid Sorento, the plug-in hybrid has that 1.6-liter turbo four-cylinder mated to a larger electric motor here that puts out 89 horsepower and 224 pound-feet of torque. And let me tell you, you can definitely feel the difference. Now, the battery here is also larger, 13.8 kilowatt hours. You can, of course, charge that and treat this like an electric car and get 32 miles of range out of the battery alone. But then once the rest of the system kicks in and becomes a hybrid again, you get about 460 miles total. As much as I love the design and the color and trim of this interior, these front seats are not very comfortable for me personally, so I can only really give this a 7 out of 10. The seat backs themselves are somewhat flat and kind of hard. They're not very soft and cushy, and they don't really keep you in place. If you are a wider bodied person, maybe that might be a little bit different for you. I know for Alex and me, we have very different perspectives on seat comfort because I like the least amount of lumbar support possible. He likes to have a lot. Also, we have very different frames. Therefore, he gives these seats a little bit of a higher score than me. So of course, as always, remember to sit in a car before you buy it, test drive it, get a feel for how it's going to be like driving it every day. For me, I'm not sure this will be comfortable enough for me to have as a daily driver. Despite what Alex and many others in the industry were anticipating, this plug-in hybrid Sorento does not get a bench seat back here. We are still strictly a 6-seater with 2 captain's chairs. Now these are still heated with 2 levels of heating, and there are armrests which give you a nice little place to put your arm, and we can recline, giving you a nice view of the big panoramic moonroof. Oh wait, we don't have that. The nice thing is Kia does make that a separate standalone option package that bundles in ambient lighting for the interior. Some other car companies like to cram that into a giant package with a ton of features that maybe you don't really necessarily need, and you really want that panoramic moonroof and you don't want to pay like $5,000 to get all those extra goodies. Here it's a $1,300 package that gets you that and the ambient lighting, and you're good to go. The seats also still slide, which is nice, so if you want to slide forward and give the third row seat some more room, you can do that, or if you want to give yourself more room, that's fine too. Like in the other Sorento models, the third row seat is tight. What else can I say about it? It's just not meant for people over 5'10", I would say. I'm 5'9", and I've got plenty of headroom, but my knees are right up against the seat back. And you know, earlier I said you could slide this forward, so that's possible to make this a little bit better. But the seat bottom cushion is very low to the ground. It's basically on the ground, so your knees are going to be up high either way. Now you do have the space in between here with the captain's chairs where you could maybe stretch out your leg and rest it right here to give you a little bit more flexibility, but you do still get USB ports on either side, but no air vents back here whatsoever. To get out, it's as easy as pushing the shoulder button right here. This SX Prestige model has Hyundai and Kia's Smart Access tailgate, which opens up if you stand next to it for like 3 or 4 seconds. And it reveals a, it's somewhat small cargo area with the third row seat up. It's just under 13 cubic feet of space. That's the same as the hybrid model. But like the hybrid model, you do still get a spare tire underneath. Now, if this small cargo area is a little bit daunting to you, and you're going to have people in here a lot, you're going to be taking more than 4 people on a trip, there's always the aftermarket option of rooftop luggage. So keep that in mind if everything about this car so far has really spoken to you. Now, we still get this area under here that doesn't really have much extra storage except for that little pocket over there. Then we've got the jack right here to lift the car up. They also provide you with the EVSE charging cable right here if you need it. And then there are buttons right here to fold the second row seat once the third row seat is down, but these are not powered. These are fully manual. So just fold them like so. And then, like I said, buttons here that'll put those seats down for you. Taking a look around the interior, this is the plug-in hybrid model with the navy blue interior color option, which I think is just awesome looking. It's got that two-tone with the off-white color you see over there, and this is unique to the segment and really unique to the industry in general. You don't see a lot of blue interiors. You do find them in Genesis models, and you can get them on that giant Jeep Grand Wagoneer that I had a couple weeks ago, but for this price point, I don't think there are any other blue interiors you can get. and it looks really, really good. If you get a plug-in hybrid, you would be doing yourself a disservice not to get this color choice. Like other newer Kia and Hyundai models, you've got a USB-A port situated right there on the seat back, and then below here you have 2 air vents, a USB-A port, and a 12-volt car-style jack. This is a lot of gloss black plastic, so over time there might be a little bit of scratching going on there, but it does look nice up front. Of course, we have height adjustable seat belts over there and headrests that are just up and down. There is not any sort of out and in motion. But then again, blue leather seats that are heated and ventilated and have a really nice sort of pattern to them if you look closely there. Up top, this is a soft injection molded plastic, but it's not the most cushioned. It doesn't really give way too much when you press on it, but it's softer than what you get out back. More of that sort of fish scale looking pattern, which I really like. The door handle is really nice and solid and has a cool metal feel to it, which is great. The pockets down here are not super large. There's probably room for 1 water bottle and a couple smaller items. There's that speaker grill for your Bose premium stereo again, and then the glove box itself is a bin style, and it's a decent size. It's not really too big. It doesn't fold down super far. This is a pretty narrow space right here. Other than the fact that we get the large 10.25-inch touchscreen and the LCD instrument cluster, this dashboard design kind of strays a little bit away from some of the more recent Kia interior designs. This binnacle here has touch capacitive buttons and toggle switches, so if you have your automatic AC on and all that, these buttons are physical, but then if you want to change the fan speed or the circulation or any of these features like the driver only setting, these are touch capacitive buttons, but they're very responsive and they work quite well. Down below, a lot of gloss black plastic, which looks nice again, but it will scratch up over time and show fingerprints like crazy, but you know, for the sake of style, it does look good. Down here, you have your Qi wireless charging. Over here, a USB port, and then the USB port you have to use for the wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Then another second USB port. Then we've got the toggle switches for your heated and ventilated seats. These also look kind of like Mercedes-Benz's interiors in their crossovers right now with these sort of grab handle looking areas. It's not like a Telluride, but there is actually a space here for you to sort of grip onto this, but it looks sort of similar in design. Then we have the rotary shifter that you don't get on the gas-only models. Only the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid get this situation. Right here we've got your drive modes. The car is defaulted to eco mode, so when you turn it on, you'll always be here. This is a button for your heated steering wheel, the auto hold function, which I really like. Your electronic parking brake, your parking sensors, your 360-degree surround view camera. And this button's cool because the car defaults into automatic mode, but if you have enough charge in the battery, you can toggle between forcing it into electric mode only or hybrid mode only, or just having the car be able to go back into automatic and choose for you. Once you get down to like less than 20% battery life, it won't allow you to go back into EV only mode. It's going to be hybrid only, but it's nice that you can sort of say, hey, I only want to be using electricity and I have enough battery life, so let me toggle into that. That's what this button is for. We have 2 cup holders and a small little area for some storage. There's another little slot right here under the armrest. And then when you open up the glove box, there's a tray right here you can lift out and remove to give more space, but the overall room in there isn't too big. It's just enough for the kind of items you might actually be putting in there. Up front, we have Kia's lovely LCD instrument cluster, which has really sharp graphics and is quite snappy with its transitions. The system, when it first rolled out, I believe in the Hyundai Palisade, was a little bit laggy, but they've really fixed that with these newer models. As you can see, when I toggle through, things happen pretty snappy. This isn't the most customizable screen you'll ever find. It doesn't really let you change the layout, it's more just the themes. But you can go through the different settings here. You've got your sort of adaptive cruise control, compass, your energy flow. That's what I keep it on because I like to know what the car is doing, where the power is coming from and all that. It's really nice. And it's funny, as you can see right here in sport mode, we do have a tachometer over there on the right, but in every other mode, it becomes a power meter. So, you're charging, you're doing efficient driving, or you're using power. That's what it shows you over there. Over on the bottom left is something interesting. So you've got your range number. You see that 181 there. We've got more than half a tank of gas left, but it doesn't really tell you the range, including all of the possible configurations of electricity and gas. This is only showing you how much range is left on the gasoline. So you can't really get a good idea unless you just follow the gauge and see that line that's sort of creeping down. We still have over half of the gas tank left, but I don't know. I would rather see the whole holistic number of range you have that includes what's going on with your hybrid system instead of just what's going on with the gasoline. I really love the new Kia logo here. It fits right in and it looks great with that metallic finish, and it goes really well with the white. On the right side here, we have your controls for your adaptive cruise control. This is Kia's DriveWise adaptive cruise control, the lane keep and lane follow assist. But right here is how you turn it on, and you can of course adjust how far away the car in front of you is going to be. This button actually turns on your sort of steering assist, and you can turn that on around town even if you're not on the highway. Here we have your Bluetooth controls and your audio controls as well, volume up and down. In a weird twist, Kia and Hyundai have been doing this recently. I don't understand because my Hyundai Veloster doesn't do this. But if you want to go to the next track, you would assume you would push forward, up. But in this car and most of their other new ones, you actually push down to go to the next song. It should always be up for the next track, down for the last track. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that, because again, it kind of threw me off. We have a dedicated plug-in hybrid page, which gives you a sort of readout of all your certain situations, including your EV range, how much battery is left in the battery, and it gives you a sort of a coach to figure out when you should charge next, your eco driving coach over here, and then the energy flow, which is just a larger depiction of what I showed you over in the LCD instrument cluster. It's no more detailed, really. It just kind of shows you in position where all these certain elements are, but it doesn't really tell you anything more than what you got over there. But it's nice to have. Setting off in the plug-in hybrid Sorento in this brand new neighborhood with perfectly smooth asphalt, the Sorento glides over everything. Only really major bumps and, really rough areas unsettle this chassis. Otherwise, it's very planted and very comfortable. There's 395 extra pounds over the regular hybrid, so it does feel a little bit more planted, but overall the ride is a very comfortable experience. Every time I've had passengers in here, they've said this is just as comfortable, if not more comfortable, than the $100,000 Grand Wagoneer that I just had. Like the standard hybrid model, we've got 235 width tires on 55mm rubber, and the experience is very comfortable. It's very smooth. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is perfect for the target market. I'm in a neighborhood right now, and the families that are going to be buying this, especially young families, are going to really appreciate just how, almost isolated from the road it feels. There's a really good tuning to the suspension that's going to be really comfortable for families like that. Because the battery doesn't have enough charge in it, it's going to be forced into hybrid mode only. Once you get down to below 20% battery life, that usually kicks on. You can no longer say, hey, I want electricity only. You press the button here, it's going to say, nope, you got to be hybrid only. The numbers are kind of deceiving. This car feels really quick off the line. If you pull up next to somebody and you really give it a go on sport mode, it moves. We're going. It's very quick, but it's only 7.6 seconds to 60, so that's actually slower than the regular hybrid, which gets 7.2 seconds to 60. And then, of course, the gas-only turbo 4-cylinder model is a little bit faster than that. Tangibly, it feels plenty quick. Honestly, this is not a bad thing at all. So if you were at all worried that, that extra 0.4 of a second is going to be noticeable, it's not. This is a very, very quick car, at least because of that initial electric boost. Even in all-electric mode, the battery will be charged by the gas motor sometimes, so you will notice in the display that the gas turns on, but it's not powering the wheels. It's just generating electricity to charge the battery. And when it does do that, it's very quiet. You can't really even tell it turns on, but it is on and it's running, and it's probably using a little tiny bit of gas in that process, but it's again very seamless and very serene. Just like in the hybrid that Alex reviewed, in this plug-in hybrid model, if you do any sort of rolling stops where you almost come to a complete stop and then you're ready to go again, there is a noticeable delay in acceleration that can kind of be annoying and a little bit inconvenient depending on the situation you're in. Another really interesting thing is because we have a traditional 6-speed automatic, even in EV only mode, you can actually hear it changing gears. It's kind of a strange experience if you've come out of a full electric car recently, because most of those are single-speed electric transmission situations where it doesn't really need to change gears, but here we have that transmission, so it is going to shift while you're accelerating in full EV mode. Braking is really good, just like the hybrid. The transition between regenerative and friction brakes is very seamless. Honestly, you can't even really tell it's happening. The hybrid model from 60 miles per hour to 0 takes about 121 feet. I haven't been able to actually test it on this model, unfortunately. The steering is really good, just like in the hybrid. It's, it's not super heavy, but it's very direct. It points, it goes right where you point it to go. And so there's really no complaints there. It's very confidence inspiring, especially if you've got a bunch of people in here. On a rougher road like this, the Sorento does its best to soak up the bumps, but these are really rough situations and most cars are going to have a hard time masking that. So back on the smoother pavement like this, it's just so smooth and comfortable. It just glides over all this stuff. But then as soon as you get back to this, it's gonna be very noticeable. But I would give the ride quality honestly an A. It's just very comfortable, especially again for the target audience. Kia's DriveWise safety system is actually really good. I haven't had any complaints about it. Around town you can turn on the steering assist to keep you in your lane like I have it on right now, and it's doing a really good job of being smooth and keeping me right in the center of the lane. That is that lane following assist. You can turn that on and off by the steering wheel right here, so that's nice if you don't really like having the steering wheel helping you out. Cabin noise at 70 miles per hour is rated at 71.5 decibels, but again, numbers don't paint the full picture, I think this sounds quieter than that. Comments I've received have said that this is like one of the quietest cars I've ever been in, and it's almost like an electric car in that way, and I agree, when you're in full electric mode, it is very quiet in here. Because this is the plug-in hybrid mode, you would automatically assume this is going to get an A+ in terms of fuel economy, but unfortunately, I think due to various factors such as the added weight and the mechanical all-wheel drive system, this actually gets, based on the EPA rating, a little bit less miles per gallon than the hybrid model once you are in that hybrid mode. At the end of the day, I think the Sorento is a really good option, and I'm glad that they kept it around, even though the Telluride does so well. Sure, they could have brought these powertrains into the Telluride, and I'm sure maybe for its next generation they probably will, but for now, if you need something with a smaller footprint that's a little bit easier to park, a little bit more nimble than the Telluride, this is going to be the perfect option. It's quiet, it's comfortable, it's fuel efficient. Even though it's not as efficient as its hybrid counterpart, it still has that 32 miles of electric range that you can tap into if you treat it like a true plug-in hybrid and charge it now and then. I know a lot of people out there don't charge their plug-in hybrids, but you absolutely should do that, especially if you can find the free places like I've been able to find here in Atlanta. To go a little bit more into pricing and comparisons, I'm going to hand it off to Alex. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brian, for running us through the features and functions of the new plug-in hybrid Sorento. Now let's dive into how much it's going to cost. For 2022, it's going to start at $45,190. If you qualify for the maximum federal tax credit, it could be $6,587 less, because the tax credit is based on the battery capacity. And since this has an approximately 13.8 kilowatt-hour battery, it doesn't qualify for the full credit. You'd need a 16 kilowatt-hour to get the $7,500 credit. Keep that in mind if you are looking at that tax credit and you want to factor it into the price tag. If you're thinking to yourself, that sounds like a lot more than the base model, you're definitely right. The base model Sorento comes with a lot less equipment, and it comes with a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. That's the big reason that the Sorento sort of lives between worlds. On the inside, it is Highlander and Pilot sized, but on the outside, it's somewhere between worlds. It's a little bit shorter, a little bit more compact than the Highlander, and the third row is not quite as wide, which is why Kia only puts 2 seat belts back there rather than 3. But a lot of the dimensions are much more Highlander than, say, Mitsubishi Outlander. And the price tag definitely borders across worlds as well. If you get the 2.5-liter turbocharged engine, performance-wise, that's going to be pretty similar to the 6-cylinder competition, then the price tag is pretty similar to the 6-cylinder competition as well. And interestingly enough, a little bit more than the plug-in hybrid version. With that out of the way, let's roll very quickly through the competition, because honestly, there isn't much direct competition to the Sorento. Obviously, we have the Highlander hybrid, but there is no plug-in hybrid version. The Highlander hybrid is going to get you slightly better fuel economy, 35 to 36 miles per gallon, but of course there's no electric range. So if you want to move your fuel consumption over to electricity, if you want to access the carpool lane in states like California, or if you're just looking to tiptoe into the electrified world, then you can't do that in the Highlander. On the other hand, you can seat 7 or you can seat even 8. If you get the base model hybrid Highlander, it has 8 seats. The other trims have 7 seats. The Sorento plug-in hybrid, it's 6 seat only. For a reasonable number of people, the lack of that middle seat in the second row is going to be a problem, and I will say that the upcoming Outlander plug-in hybrid is going to have a 7-seat version, so I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity that Kia did not put one in the Sorento. Depending on exactly how you decide to configure your Highlander hybrid versus the plug-in hybrid Sorento, generally speaking, the Highlander hybrid is going to be a bit more expensive, and of course, you aren't going to have those added benefits of the electrified drivetrain. If you want 7 seats, lots of cargo practicality, and a plug-in hybrid drivetrain, at the moment you really only have one option, and that would be the Chrysler Pacifica hybrid minivan. It has pretty similar range, honestly, to the Sorento, about 30 miles per gallon once the battery pack has been depleted. It does qualify for the full federal tax credit, and it is priced really aggressively as well. It's going to be less expensive and bigger on the inside. But on the other hand, it's going to be a minivan, it's going to be front-wheel drive, and not quite the same thing as the Sorento. Very clearly less ground clearance. That lack of all-wheel drive means it's not going to go the same kind of places, and the minivan vibe is definitely something that some people may gravitate towards, but a lot of people really aren't a fan of. Now, if you are willing to take that trip, then you're going to get about 3 times the cargo area, significantly more rear passenger room, more second row room, more comfortable seats in the second row and in the third row. It still won't seat 8, but it will seat 7 definitely more comfortably than any version of the Sorento. Next up, if you don't need the 2 rows, you could take a look at something like the Hyundai Santa Fe plug-in hybrid. That is basically the same plug-in hybrid system and basically the Hyundai version of the Sorento for all intents and purposes. Only in the United States, the Santa Fe does not have a 3rd row. Which vehicle is right for you will depend on your preference when it comes to styling. I prefer the way the Santa Fe is styled, but I prefer the practicality that we find in the Sorento. The Sorento is not merely a three-row version of the Santa Fe, however. Structurally, the vehicles are relatively different, although they share the exact same hybrid system, plug-in hybrid system, all-wheel drive system, etc. The Sorento is longer, and there were some significant changes to accommodate the third row in the Sorento, meaning that I think it's a little bit more practical even if you don't plan on using the third row too often. Then, of course, you get the benefit of having that third row when you need it. But that said, I do appreciate the styling direction that we find in the Santa Fe. I think it's a little bit more attractive than the Sorento. Also in the family is the Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid. This is a compact crossover, so not related to the Sorento or the Santa Fe at all. This is the next size down, but again, has the same plug-in hybrid system. Has very similar range, 33 miles of electric range, 35 miles per gallon. Also has all-wheel drive standard. That is going to be a little bit less expensive, but again, you don't get that third row. Since we're already talking about two-row vehicles, we can't go without talking about the Toyota RAV4 Prime. This is, again, a compact crossover, so not in the same size category as the Sorento, doesn't have the third row option, etc., but it will still seat 5 people, just one less than the Sorento, reasonable amount of room on the inside, and a pretty decent range, 42 miles of electric range, because its battery pack is bigger. It's also going to be less expensive at $39,800 starting, assuming you can even find a RAV4 plug-in hybrid. They're really, really difficult to find right now. And in terms of real-world fuel economy, the RAV4 Prime is going to be better. It's EPA rated for 38 mpg. In real-world driving, 40 is not a problem as long as you're gentle on the throttle. The RAV4 Prime also feels honestly more like an EV. If you're looking for something that bridges between worlds, feels more like an EV, also has that gasoline engine when you need it, that's going to be the RAV4 Prime. You can also lock out the gasoline engine if you just want to drive in EV-only mode, and that is something that you can't really do with the Hyundai and Kia plug-in hybrid systems. There are going to be times where it's going to turn on the engine that you might not want it to turn on, colder weather, etc. That's when it's going to turn on the engine to help heat the cabin. None of those situations apply to the RAV4 Prime. The RAV4 Prime will operate just as an electric vehicle as long as there is enough battery for that. Coming on the horizon soon is going to be the new 2023 Outlander plug-in hybrid, not to be confused with the 2022 Outlander plug-in hybrid, although they do share basically the same plug-in hybrid system. Rather interestingly, this is not Nissan's new plug-in hybrid system, which we have been widely expecting to trickle down into the Mitsubishi lineup because Nissan now owns Mitsubishi. Instead, this is essentially the Mitsubishi version of the Nissan Rogue with a third row and the previous generation Outlander plug-in hybrid system jammed in under the hood. Now, performance-wise and fuel economy-wise, that plug-in hybrid system is a little bit disappointing currently. We don't know what the tweaks will be like for 2023. Supposedly, we're going to get more powerful electric motors, a little bit of an improvement in efficiency, etc. I really hope that's true because the previous generation, it was a little bit slower than you might suspect, 0 to 60, and the fuel economy, because of the design of the system, is not as good as you'll find in a RAV4 Prime or, honestly, the Santa Fe and the Tucson as well. Competition for the Outlander plug-in hybrid, that's a little bit difficult to divine because it is fairly small on the inside. This is a compact crossover with a third row, not a mid-sized crossover with really short overhangs like we find in the Sorento. That's the important thing to remember about the Sorento is it actually is quite roomy on the inside because they deleted the rear overhang, they deleted the front overhang. It really gave it very interesting proportions, but the body inside is fairly large. On the inside, it's about the same size as a Highlander. It actually has more combined legroom than we find in a Highlander. We don't find the same thing in the Outlander or in the Outlander plug-in hybrid that's going to be coming up here soon. Those are definitely smaller on the inside. But I think Mitsubishi did something really interesting with the upcoming plug-in hybrid Outlander in that it's going to have a big battery pack. We widely expect range to be around 40 to 50 miles of electric range. So if you're looking for something that will go a little bit further, that's going to be an excellent option. Because of the design of the drivetrain, it's going to drive just like an electric vehicle. And even when the gasoline engine has to help out, it's generating power, sending it over to the electric motors. So it's not going to have the same sort of plug-in hybrid feel that we find in the Hyundai and in the Kia products. It's going to feel more like an EV more of the time. At least for the moment, Kia really seems to have this three-row crossover with the plug segment locked down because the Outlander is not available with a three-row just yet. That'll be the next generation in 2023. And then aside from those two vehicles, we have a minivan and then we have luxury segment vehicles or full battery electric vehicles, which are going to be quite a bit more expensive. The XC90 plug-in hybrid, that's quite a bit more. The Model Y, that is more than $20,000 more and doesn't have a tax credit. The Model X, that is more than double the price of the Kia Sorento. Perhaps the Kia EV9 that's coming up soon, that might be a quasi-competitor. Also, the Rivian, of course, will have a 3-row SUV version. But I suspect a lot of folks that are looking at a plug-in hybrid like this, they're trying to tiptoe into the waters of electrification. They're not really ready to make that complete switch. So I really would discount most of those full EVs as far as direct competition to the Sorento goes at the moment. Let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below. And what would you shop? Would you be willing to spend more to get a full electric vehicle? Would you be willing to consider something like that Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid for the roominess on the inside and the extra range that we might get out of that battery now and then? The range is pretty darn similar, but depending on how you drive it, you can get a little bit more out of the Chrysler minivan. Let me know all that down there in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And of course, find us over at social media places like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything else out there. And I'll see all of you next week.